So I just want to start by introducing Mubashir, Hassan, Rehmani, and I think some of the students might remember him from some of the talks he gave before. I think he gave a talk on blockchain during the summer, which was quite interesting. Now, Mubashir is an associate professor at Munster Technical University, and he's one of the advanced supervisors. Now he's giving a talk today on ethics and publicizing in high-end journals. And I think it's quite fitting because he's an editor in quite a lot of prestigious IEEE journals. So I think we're very welcome to have you here to give a talk today to us, Mubashir. So I'll hand the floor to you. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Hello, everyone. So I will be talking about bibliometrics, ethics in scientific publication and publishing in high quality scientific journals. During my presentation, if you have any question, you can stop me and ask me any question. So we all are living in a very difficult situation, and we are facing difficulties due to coronavirus. And this coronavirus has disturbed our life, and the countries have been locked down, and everything is in the stop stage. But fortunately, we have the cure, we have the vaccination, and two of the famous vaccination for coronavirus are Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, and the other one is Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine. So now, since we are all are researchers and related to scientific research, if we ask to the general public or if we ourselves want to understand how these vaccines work and how scientists and researchers concluded that these vaccines work and how they validated the results. So we need to go to find the journals, articles, and read the scientific material. We will not go and study any newspaper. We will not go and see any TV talk or any other website. Instead, we will be focusing on the scientific material. Now, if we see the scientific material for the Pfizer BioNTech COVID-19 vaccine, we can find the working of this vaccine published in Nature journal. So you can see I highlighted the word journal, and here you can see the link of this article to see the details, how they validated their approach, how they perform the experiments. The impact factor of this Nature journal is 42.778. So I will be explaining what is impact factor and why it is important and whether it's important or not to consider. And this Nature journal is indexed by Clarivate Web of Science. What does it mean by indexing, and what do we mean by Clarivate Web of Science? Similarly, when we talk about Oxford AstraZeneca COVID-19 vaccine, its results are published in the Lancet journal, the link of which is mentioned over here. And the impact factor for this journal is 60.392. And again, it is indexed by Clarivate Web of Science. Now here, I'm showing you the link of the first vaccine, the image of the first vaccine, the article, and this is the image of second article, where you can go and study in detail how these vaccines work. Now, the question is, who manages and regulate all these scientific research around the globe, and how these scientific inventions, experiments, and studies are conducted, verified, and published, and how many major branches of science are there, what is journal article, what is an impact factor, what is the role of Clarivate Web of Science, why there is Clarivate Web of Science everywhere, and how we can identify which are the top ranked journals, which are the top ranked venues in our scientific field in which we are working, and how we can identify top quality researchers and scientists in our domain. And finally, how we can publish in high quality scientific journals. So by answering all these questions and understanding all these terminology, we will be able to understand the whole landscape of scientific research, and we will then study, think how we can publish in these top ranked journals. Now, if we go to towards the Ireland's research horizon, basically the main funding body in Ireland is Science Foundation Ireland (SFI), and I'm referring to the recently annual report 2019 published by SFI. So here you can see SFI uh, manages 16 research centers within Ireland, and these research centers are Connect, Lero, Confirm, APC, Vista, many others. So all the research in the scientific domain within Ireland are through these research centers, and uh, the scientists and researchers are associated with any of these research centers. I personally belong to the Connect Research Center. Then we have SFI research training centers. There are 6 SFI research training centers, among which we all belong to advanced CRT, and there are 5 others as well. Now, SFI funded hugely on science and scientific knowledge, and it's the money of the taxpayers of Ireland, and they invest huge and on the scientific research. So if we see the key statistics of 2019, Ireland is 12th, number 12th in global scientific ranking, and there are total 27 most highly cited researchers in the world which have been funded by SFI. So it means that SFI, whatever SFI spend money, it is producing some impactful research which has an impact not only on the society but also in other areas as well. In terms of ranking, Ireland rank is number 1 in immunology, and you can see other rankings are also there, and uh, there are around more than 4,500 publications produced by the SFI funded researchers. This is another huge achievement by the SFI researchers. 27 of the SFI researchers were able to make their name in the list of highly cited researchers. Now, the point is that I'm making over here is that SFI spent huge amount of money on the scientific research, and manages and look after all the projects. And at the end, SFI is accountable for all this money, and SFI produce some statistics and some detail for the evaluation of those researchers and scientists within Ireland that are working under the funding of SFI. Now, all this data that I just mentioned, they were taken from Clarivet Analytics, and all these statistics are based upon Clarivet Web of Science and other Clarivet softwares. Now, these are some other statistics. As you can see, um, in the SFI annual report, they mention the field specific ranking, quality of publication, country-wise ranking, and the number of documents, a number of highly cited articles. All these data are there in the SFI report. And as you can see, I have marked in the green box that these data SFI collected from Clarivet Web of Science. Now, what is this Clarivet Web of Science? It is very important to understand the role of Clarivet, because the whole scientific paradigm around the globe revolves around this Clarivet. Now, Clarivet basically is a public traded company, and it's registered in New York Stock Exchange under the name of CCC. It was basically intellectual property of Thomson Reuters, and it manages different platforms for the management of scientific research. The first one is basically the Web of Science. Web of Science basically the 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 whole world research information is captured through Web of Science. Whatever the researchers and scientists publishes, they all saved and indexed through Web of Science. So Web of Science is basically an indexing service. All the journals basically registered themselves to the Web of Science. Publon is basically a peer review and editorial contribution platform where we can register our profile, and it traces back all our peer review activity. And again, it is linked with the Web of Science. When we write any scientific article and submit to somewhere, we submit it through a platform, uh, through a journal submission site, and that submission site is normally Scholar One, and definitely there are some other platforms as well. But I'm just talking about here Scholar One, which manages more than 7,000 sites. So you can see more than 7,000 journals are managed and through Scholar One. And again, Scholar One is owned by Clarivate. And we have this journal citation report, which issues every year, and it issues the impact factor. And we have essential science indicator, ESI. Basically, it reveals emerging science trends, and these scientific trends are used by the government agencies to plan their scientific research, next 5-year plans or 10-year plan, to make their strategy for the research. This Clarivate also issues annually highly cited researcher list, and also the list of citation laureates which are likely to win the Nobel Prize. So you can see this the role of this Clarivate. It is everywhere, and starting from releasing the list of citation laureates to the Web of Science and Publons and Scholar One, all of these are under the umbrella of Clarivate. Now, we have this journal citation report. Journal citation report, basically it indexes more than 12,000 journals, and whenever there's a new journal, they try to index themselves with Clarivate Web of Science and with the JCR. And JCR has more than 20 ranking criteria, and through JCR in Web of Science, they monitors and excludes journal that demonstrate some predatory behavior. And again, if there's some abnormal citation activity, they also look for that. So basically, before further proceeding, Clarivate is the main acting body. Definitely, there are some other indexing bodies as well. For example, when we talk about computer science, there's DPLB, which is which also indexes. There's Scopus. Scopus is managed by Elsevier. But the main point that I'm trying to make is that among all these indexing bodies, the major and the most powerful one is Clarivate, and nobody can beat until now Clarivate Web of Science. Now, what is citation? So citation is basically a reference to a published or unpublished work, and it is a way how much well referenced the published work. And citation is a metric that is normally used. Again, it is not the sole metric. There are some other metrics as well, but I'm just trying to introduce you a few basic metrics. So citation is one of the metric that is being used by researchers around the globe, and it comes under basically bibliometrics. So bibliometrics is the measurement of all aspects related to publication and reading of books and documents, and there are more than 50 metrics that we can use within bibliometrics to analyze the performance of a researcher or the performance of a scientific publication, ranging from I10 index, H10 index, and there are several others. And all these discussion comes under library and information science. So citation is basically tells you the impact of a publication, how your peers are referencing your scientific work. Impact factor basically, or journal impact factor, basically reflects the yearly average number of citations that article received published in that journal. And this impact factor is basically issued annually by Clarivate Web of Science, and it shows the reputation of a scientific publication. Now, it is this impact factor again is uh, is disputable, arguable. Not everyone is relying on impact factor, but again, it shows us some value of the scientific publication. Definitely, if I belong to a particular scientific field, I know very well that there are some journals which has less impact factor, but in the community they are much more respectful. So it just give you a hint how how well a journal is performing. Definitely, the journal which has higher impact factor, they uh, it is difficult to publish in them because they have more rigorous and hard review process compared to the journals which has less impact factor. But again, uh, it is not the final criteria. We have to look, we need to look at different parameters, and then we can decide the quality of a journal and the quality of a work done by a researcher. It's not just only that we can say that, okay, this researcher is publishing this much huge impact factor. We also need to see what that research makes an impact on the society, and what's the actual contribution, technical contribution of that researcher or scientist. We just not only close our eyes and look at only the impact factor or citations. We need to see and evaluate the profile of a researcher as well in order to better understand the real contribution of a researcher or scientist. Now, how we calculate uh, the the impact factor? So I just put some screenshots from the JCR. So I'm mentioning here a journal which is IEEE Communications Surveys and Tutorial. It has an impact factor of 23.7. So basically, what they did is that they took last 2 year publications. So in last 2 year, as you can see, in the denominator, there is 230. So 230 is the number of articles that they publish in the last 2 years. And in the numerator, you can see 5451, which is the number of citations that all these articles published in these 2 years receive. So when you divide it, you will get 23.7. So this is how the JCR calculates the impact factor for any journal. Definitely, some articles may receive higher number of citations, some may less, but it's on average. Now we have another parameter which we called as H index and I10 index. H index is the largest number H, such that H publications have at least H citations. So if a researcher has a H index of 20, it means it has um, 20 publications which has at least 20 citations. And I index tell us how many publications a researchers have which receive at least 10 citations. So these are some other parameters. These parameters are used by Google Scholar. So you can see whenever you see the profile of any researcher on the Google Scholar, on the right hand side, you can see the number of citations, you can see H index and I10 index. Now I move towards the ranking of the journals. So this ranking of journals is issued annually by Clarivate Web of Science. So here, this is the general ranking. So we have around more than 12,000 journals in the whole world in 22 fields of science. And these journals, ranging from biological sciences, physical sciences, to telecommunication, and to computer science, and other fields. So you can see, with respect to impact factor, the first ranked number one journal is uh, CA, Cancer Journal for Clinicians. And then we have New England Journal of Medicine, and then there are Nature journals and Lancet journals. And I just mentioned the 20 top ranked journals of all the fields. Now, these journals definitely, I cannot I cannot talk about the journals of different domains like like biological sciences or other domains, because I'm not an expert in that domain. But discipline wise, these are the ranking of these journals with respect to impact factor. Now, uh, basically, Web of Science is not a publisher. Okay, there are different publishers in computer science domain. I'm focusing here on in the domain of computer science. So we have IEEE, Elsevier, Springer, Wiley, ACM, Taylor and Francis, IET, and there are several other scientific publishers in the domain of computer science. Since we are dealing with advanced communication networks, so majority of the journals uh, and scientific work publishes in these publishers. Now, why we are talking a lot in about IEEE? There are reasons for that. I'm not on the salary scale of IEEE, but telling you why in the community all the people are talking about IEEE. Basically, IEEE manages around 200 journals, and it's more than 30% of world current literature in electrical engineering, electronic, and computer science. So you can see, if you gather the whole research in the domain of electrical engineering, electronics, and computer science, uh, 30% goes to IEEE, and it's just 200 journals. And Elsevier, it manages around 2,500 journals, which is a huge amount. But again, they are in different subjects, not specifically in the domain of computer science and electrical engineering. And Wiley manages around 1,400 journals, and ACM manages around 50 journals. Now, ACM is another very good publisher, although the amount of journals it manages is quite low compared to Elsevier, but they are of high quality. So when we think about publishing our scientific contribution, we will also look at these publishers and their reputation as well. Now, when we talk about telecommunications, so in telecommunication, uh, the top 25 journals, among them 21 are managed by IEEE. So that's why IEEE has a very huge hold in the telecommunication, in the communication network sector. And when we talk about electrical and electronic engineering, IEEE has 27 out of 30 top ranked journals. And when we talk about artificial intelligence, again, one of the best journal of IEEE, transaction pattern analysis, machine learning, machine intelligence, they are managed by IEEE. Similarly, uh, uh, different domains, different subdomains within the computer science domain, we have hardware and architecture, information systems, software engineering, theory and methods. IEEE has a significant amount of journals that are in a good reputation. Now, just quickly going through the ranking of journals in terms of telecommunication, you can go into more depth and see by yourself the list of the whole journals. So in the domain of telecommunication, there are around 80 journals in total, all around the world, uh, associated by different publishers. They are Wiley, Taylor and Francis, Elsevier, IEEE, ACM. So when you gather all the telecommunication journals, they are 80. Now, among these 80 journals, there should be some ranking, okay? And that ranking can be based upon different criteria. Here I'm focusing on the ranking based upon the impact factor, okay? So the first rank number journal in the area of telecommunication is IEEE Communication Surveys and Tutorial, which has an impact factor of 23.7. Then we have IEEE JSAC, IEEE Journal on Selected Areas in Communication. Then we have magazines, IEEE Wireless Communication Magazine, IEEE Communication Magazine, and then we have transactions. Now, we need to understand that uh, there are different types of journals and types of scientific articles, and we should not compare two different categories of publications. For example, there is a technical articles, okay, that are normally published in transactions and technical journals. And in those technical articles, you basically propose your scientific work, okay, that is a core work, your core contribution, and that should be given the highest priority and highest importance, because that is the actual contribution that you are making. Okay, then there are some magazine articles. Magazine articles are basically some visionary sort of articles where a researcher who has a broad picture of the domain, they try to give some visionary, some vision, some thought-provoking ideas. But magazine articles cannot be compared with the technical transaction type articles. Then there's a letters. Letter is another type of technical article, but when we have a very short idea, we just publish that short idea in 4 pages in the form of letters. Then we have survey articles. Survey articles are not technical articles, and they should not be compared, never be compared with the technical articles. Okay, in survey articles, the researchers try to give an introduction of a domain so that a newcomer or a reader who wants to start his or her research in that domain, they try to get some insights. Now, definitely there are some issues with this ranking of the impact factor. What is the issue? You know, one of the uh, one of the best journal technical terms is IEEE translation on wireless communication. Those who are working in the domain of wireless communication, that is the actual journal. And then we have IEEE journal on selected areas in communication. Now these two journals are not uh, in the top one category. Why? Because this ranking is based upon the citations, and definitely survey articles or magazine articles will attract more citations. So of course they will their impact factor will be higher. So but if we understand that of different type of publication, we will not be confused with this ranking. We can then separate down these journals into different categories. So when we talk about magazine articles, we can see the top rank magazine journals. When we talk about the technical articles, we can see the top rank technical journals. When we talk about some visionary or survey type of journals, we can see that category. So if we keep that distinction in our mind, then we will not be confused with this ranking of the impact factor. So I just mentioned here the 20 top ranked journal of telecommunications, and knowing these journals are very important for a researcher working in the domain of telecommunication. You can also go through other list of the journals. Here I just mentioned the ranking of the journals in the domain of artificial intelligence. Again, you can see uh, IEEE transactions on pattern analysis and machine intelligence is on the top one ranking. And then we have other very prestigious journals. Those who are working in the domain of artificial intelligence, they know the importance and significance of these journals. For example, you can see pattern recognition as well is here, neural networks also there. So these are the journals that are highly reputable in the domain of artificial intelligence. And again here, and this is the list of journals, ranking of journals in information system domain and software engineering domain, CS interdisciplinary. So the point that I'm trying to make here is that this is a starting point where we can use this list of JCR of impact factor journals, and it will give us some insights that what are an appropriate venue uh, for publishing. Now, quickly going towards the scientific publication and related terms. So we have pattern research papers, books, and book chapters. Now, within the research paper, we have. I'm only focusing on the journal articles, but definitely there are few conferences that are more reputable than the journals itself. So within the journal, we have different types of journals like magazines, transactions, letters, and some normal journals. And if we know the differences between the type of article these types of journals publishes, we can easily understand the norms in the society. Now, the main important type of article are the technical articles, and technical articles are those articles which provide which tell us the original technical work that advances the state of the art or provide novel insights. For example, if you want to see a new algorithm for image processing or artificial intelligence, you will look into the technical article where the technical technically provide an algorithm or a solution to a problem. And where we can find these technical articles, we can find these technical articles in journals that are specifically designed to publish, manage to publish technical articles, transaction articles, and letters. Then we have survey or review type articles. These articles should never be compared with the technical articles. Uh, the scope of these survey and review articles is totally different. So they are in survey or review articles, basically a researcher try to summarize the state of the art work so that the reader can easily understand the domain, and also the reader can easily understand the areas where there is a need to work so that he or she can start his work. So as a PhD student or as a researcher, whenever I want to start work in a domain in which I am not, I don't have too much knowledge, I will first try to find or read a survey or review article so that I have a global picture of that domain. And then I will focus on the technical articles to understand the actual research problem that I'm going to address. Then we have the magazine articles. Magazine articles, basically, they are not that much technical. Magazine articles provide us a visionary thought what it could be, what could be done, or what can be achieved. And then we have editorials. Editorials are those type of articles in which a guest editor basically compiled a list of articles, journal articles in a particular domain. So uh, a special issue is managed where in that special issue we can find articles on a relevant topic. For example, COVID-19. If you want to see how social media impact on COVID-19, so there may be some special issues, and in those special issues, the guest editors manages the whole review process, and then they write the editorials. Now, what is the exact difference between magazine articles and transactions and editorials? I just mentioned a link below over there. If you want to precisely understand the difference, you can have a look at that. Now, why um, we want to publish research paper? There can be different reasons for that. To earn our PhD degree, to promote to assistant professor, associate professor, or to the professor grade, to attract funding, to recognize ourselves in scientific community, to disseminate knowledge, and there are many other reasons for publishing research papers. Now, when publishing a research paper, there's a whole scientific publication process, which we call as peer review process. So peer review process is basically a process through which our work is evaluated. And peer review is the technical evaluation of our work by the peer researchers. So when we try to decide to submit our paper, our technical work, it's not the publisher who will be evaluating our work. Basically, the publisher will be contacting our peer researchers who are expert in that domain, and then they will evaluate the technical contribution of our work. Now, peer review is basically ensures the integrity of science by excluding invalid or low quality research. Now, there can be two types of peer reviews: single blinded, where the name of reviewers are not shared with the authors, but the reviewers are aware of the author's identity. And then there's a double blind, where neither the author nor the reviewers are aware of each other's identity. There are some pros and cons for both type of peer review, but I just wanted to highlight that we can find single blinded review or double blinded review. Now, when we submit an article in a domain, so our peer researchers will be evaluating it because they are the expert in that domain, and they can they can understand the technical contribution that we are making. So how this peer review process works? So once we write a research article, we submit to the journal, and first it is evaluated by the editorial office. Then it is evaluated by the editor-in-chief, and then it is assigned to the area editor or associate editor, and then it is assigned to the reviewers who basically evaluated our work in terms of technical terms, and then their reviews are being evaluated by the associate editor, and the associate editor then make a recommendation to the editor-in-chief, and then uh, the authors receive a decision whether it's reject or accept or major or minor revision. There are a lot of details, but I have a time limit, so I'm trying to quickly go through all these things. So I'm skipping this part. So moving towards the actual part. So ways of publishing in scientific journals. So there are two ways of publishing. The first one is open access, and the second one is subscription based. So open access basically intention is very good. Science should be accessible to everyone, and it's uh, it's the taxpayer money, so everyone should be access to that science. Now in open access, when the authors submit their articles to the journals, they have to pay, and normally that fees is around 1500 US dollar or to 2000 US dollar. That is a huge amount for a single publication. And open access gives you the opportunity to publish very quickly, even in 4 weeks or in 2 weeks. But there are issues with the open access. The intention of the open access is very good. All the science should be accessible to everyone. But there are people who try to exploit this whole open access paradigm. What they do, there are some blacklist publishers that also jump into this in the community, and then they try to earn money and by publishing the scientific material without a strong peer review. So I'm not against the open access journals, but if you see uh, the quality of the review process by open access journals is not that much of a standard as compared to the subscription based journals. So what are subscription based journals? Subscription based journals do not charge a single penny from the authors. So if I write a scientific article, I submit it to a subscription based journal, and it will not charge a single penny. But since they are not charging a single penny, their review process is hectic. It takes 6 months or even years to get the review done, and that is the problem. uh, the long time in the review process, very strict review process, and so these are two paradigms in the publication domain, open access and subscription based. If you ask me my recommendation, I will suggest you to go for subscription based journals. When you go for subscription based journals, they are basically top ranked journals in your domain. You will get very high quality scientific review, but definitely you have to wait for 6 months or a year to get your feedback. But afterwards you can make your article open access, because why I am a bit reluctant to the open access journals, the reason for this is uh, the, the very easy review process. So uh, now I move towards ethics in scientific publications. So we all know about plagiarism. It's the uh, stealing of thoughts, ideas, languages, expressions, and present them as our own original work. That is not acceptable in the scientific community. Now, since I've you majority of the attendees are PhD students, so and they are starting their PhD. So maybe your friend belongs to a poor family and asking your help to just insert his or her name in your publication. Never do that unless that person actually contribute in the scientific article. Otherwise, this is unethical. Similarly, if a person is very busy in job and cannot give time to his research, can I write uh, my name in his research paper or his name in my research paper? Again, this is unethical. That is not acceptable. Only those authors' name should be included in a paper who actually worked in that research paper. And if you have a friend, you should not write his or her name just because he or she is your friend. And there are some other issues as well. So I'm just winding up this topic, and just wanted to give you one or two quick tips because I'm running out of time. So what are the tips for publishing in top quality journals? So if we want to publish in a top ranked journal, then as a PhD student, as a researcher, we need to adopt an approach which we called as reading from high quality journals, scientific venues. Because there's GIGO, garbage in, garbage out. If we read low quality articles, our intellectual uh, capacity will not be developed. So we need to develop our capacity. And as a PhD student, I will strongly recommend you to try to identify good venues, good journals, good conferences, good authors, good scientists in your domain, and then try to read their articles. This will build your capacity, and you will then try to replicate how they conduct research, how they formulate the problem, which mathematical modeling they use. This will ultimately help you in your own writer. Now, another tip is that in your domain, if you are working in artificial intelligence or social sciences or computer science, any particular domain, just try to make a list of top rank researchers and also the top rank journals and venues in your domain. And then try to focus on those, and try to see, for example, if you are working on image processing, then see there's a journal IEEE Transactions on Image Processing that always publishes very good quality uh, scientific contributions. So try to read from that journal. This will ultimately enhance your capacity. Uh, do not focus on if you focus on quality, which has an impact, then it will really return you back. So never go for quantity, always focus on quality work. The quality work will automatically have an impact on the society, impact on the scientific community. So I think my time is over. So I'm concluding over here. And if you have any question, most welcome.